these games are kind of magical. It's just like watching an anthill. There's so much going on.
It's kind of a genre you haven't really seen before.
And I find myself sometimes reflecting on how I would react.
And yeah, if your fire goes out, then you're screwed basically.
Well, The Tribe Must Survive is about a small group of people in a fairly scary fantasy Stone Age.
The environment is really dark and you have your fire that you really need to protect.
You try to build up the tribe, get more people to join, create more resources, wood, collect more food. And as you progress through the days, you will be hit with different types of disasters.
A lot of the fascination is having this bunch of mostly autonomous people that you cannot directly control, and you're just like giving very rough directions.
You will kind of rise from ignorance and rise from nothing, and there is this overwhelming dark presence around you and a world which feels threatening and mysterious.
We actually started at the same time at our previous job in the company. We had our desk next to each other. We didn't work together. Simon worked in a totally different department than me. And the thing is that our feet touched under the table from time to time. There was usually like, oh sorry, when that happened.
Yeah, you're really polite when you're new in a company, right? And yeah.
But then at one point, we two went on an offsite. So we rented a cabin basically somewhere on the countryside and spent there a weekend and brainstorm what we could do.
Yeah, I feel like the more we talk about it, the more it sounds like a romantic relationship and not like a business relationship. But I think we had that idea for a really long time already, and a lot of it came from us, working with a lot of different companies and a lot of different teams in our previous job, and we really felt like we want to make our own mistakes.
The origin story for most of us is like we love to play games. I just enjoyed the process of playing games so much that I wanted to make some myself.
We always had the goal to have a slightly bigger team. We don't want to become a huge company, but we like to, have these group dynamics where, multiple people introduce their opinions, and all of that, looking at the game through various lenses, is of course very important to make a great experience.
I see it a lot like solving small logic puzzles. You're trying to figure out, how does this work? And then getting to that conclusion and getting it to work. And that's kind of the small dopamine hits that you get from that, from things working correctly and working together. That's probably my favorite part.
We work well together and we are open, and I guess what I really appreciate is like there seems to be a good amount of flexibility and openness of communication, but also I'm always like almost within touching distance of them, so if I need something I can just ask.
It's a lot of fun. Every day you come in, everyone gets along together, a lot of jokes, it's fun. It's just fun.
In the very beginning we briefly thought about the idea of actually making a mobile game, but coming from a couple of years in the mobile games industry, we just felt like we need to do something else now. We wanted to make a game that we feel more passionate about and that is significantly different and a bit of a challenge. And simulation game felt like a nice challenge.
I mean, we could have just made a Stone Age setting and it would have been like pretty spooky on its own, but supernaturally charging it seemed like a good idea, I think. Otherwise, there's very limited technology in the game. I think this adds a lot of excitement and mystery to the game.
I mean, what we already had very early on was basically the psychological part of it all. And I think that led us, through inspirations like Stephen King's The Mist and even The Shining, for that matter. That realization of groups just being locked in together in a very dangerous situation, and how that often turns the people to be even more scary than the monster.
There's a certain appeal to going back to this primal situation where you're just like dealing with the natural elements and trying to shield yourself from the cold night.
I think everybody who did that, just spent some time in a forest at night, knows how that feels. It's scary. And it doesn't need to be, a scary forest, and it doesn't have to be a monster. Just being in a forest at night on your own, it's a scary feeling, and I think everybody can relate to that.
I think there's so much untapped potential within the idea of cosmic horror in general. Just the idea of having something that is unknowable and trying to turn that into a game, and the experience of trying to play around with something that's bigger than yourself, bigger than understanding. I think that can lead to a lot of very cool ideas and concepts.
It's built in very fundamentally that every tribe member responds with a personality. And this personality is basically the baseline for the opinions they are likely to form and the perks they are likely to get, like what are they good, what are they bad at.
Another thing is the whole simulation aspect of it, of the interactions between tribe members, their opinions of each other, that all of that is simulated, and it goes on a much deeper level than most games.
And in the beginning of the game, that doesn't have a great impact, but as the game goes on to the later stages, it becomes more and more relevant.
We have like a bunch of gods. The tribe also has like opinions on various philosophies. You can basically choose which god to devote your tribe to, and there's this discussion going on in the tribe which philosophy they should follow.
And there's always something that we wanted in the game, that there's tension in the tribe.
So our game is structured in 5 acts, and each act is supposed to be like a phase of relative peace, and at the end of each act is a disaster.
For the disasters, we went with things, with themes and topics that are again instinctively understandable, that everybody gets intuitively. We didn't want to go with some abstract catastrophe that needs to be over-explained. What they do mechanically for the game is, of course, they increase the difficulty, but how they do it is very important, because they don't do it by just making everything a little bit harder. They do it by targeting specific mechanics in the game.
And what I really like about it is that stuff is unclear, and then in the end you just want to get out. There's hardly a good ending or anything. It's just like something incomprehensible, and you're happy when you make it out alive.
It's okay to fail, and we do not expect you to get all the way to the end on your first run. Your possibility to survive comes from endurance, comes from not giving up. We are encouraging you picking things up again and just trying it again.
There's a lot of different events where the different options will significantly change the outcome of the game. There are different choices that you'll be presented with in the end of the game. There's the journeys, which has a lot of different choices too.
When you send out these journeys, it's pretty easy to lose a journey. So from a gameplay perspective, you're supposed to struggle with the decisions and take some risks, but sometimes you take too big of a risk and the journey doesn't come back. And this is also the tone, the narrative tone of the events. Like they are out there in absolute crazy wilderness, and they are trying to claw something from this. Like they try to bring something back to the tribe that made it all worth their sacrifices.
It's not that necessarily you press one button and you lose, but it's more the compounding events that will happen from one choice. It's kind of like the butterfly effect, I think, where you make one choice earlier on that doesn't seem to have that much significance, but then that spirals into, because this happened, then this happens, and then it just keeps going until that eventually leads to the downfall.
What's special about our game is that you have this short cycle, or that you either win the game or you lose, and then you start from scratch. So that roguelike portion of it.
I feel like the whole simulation genre and the roguelike genre have some similarities and some overlaps that can be married together pretty nicely. So instead of like playing through this one big simulation for 12 hours, We would rather have you restart and go through the build-up process again and again and again.
You get into these situations where you feel really smart for finding a good strategy through that set of basically options that you had in this particular run. And that's really exciting. And we thought it's a cool idea to make a bit of a hybrid between a strategy game and exactly that feeling of finding your own perfect strategy. This is also why the game is really, really hard, because unless you find that one great strategy, you're going to have a really hard time to finish the game. Launches are scary, of course. We have a good feeling about it. We like the game ourselves, and we hope that other people will like it too, of course.
We already have plans for what we want to develop after the release, and we designed the systems of the game so that they can be scaled with content.
It makes me really excited, to be honest. I'm really looking forward to the launch. It's also frightening, of course, but I'm looking forward to it.
There's a mix of excitement and appropriately terror, but I think that's to be expected.
And we're really cranking it up in the later stages, so if you make it to the end, you will see some pretty crazy shit in the game.
Any final comment, anything you want to tell the viewer? Or?
Play the game.